Right, here we go again, episode 17, I believe, of the Northeast Corner. I'm delighted to be joined by a guest today, local musician Scott Ramsay. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, thanks for having me.
We've just been talking briefly outside. Like I always kind of hate having it's not fake at the start of a podcast, but it's kind of like we're trying to show that we've maybe just first met, but we just have, but at the same time we have spoke a little bit outside, so I kind of feel like weird asking people how they are when I've done it like 5 minutes previously. But you said that you've been actually seen on your Facebook page yesterday that you've been at a beer garden. Was that to perform, or was that just for pleasure?
Well, that was performance. It's the first time I ever played out in the Mossett Tavern in their beer garden, and it was really good.
Yeah.
Yesterday morning was just fog.
Yeah.
All over yesterday. So I thought, oh, good God, what is this going to turn out like? But the guys that were running it said that the week before had been absolutely dinging it down with rain. And everybody was still sitting at their tables. Even just under the umbrellas, and just I think it was Callum Jones. They said they had the week before, and everybody stayed in the whole set and just watched, and every table was packed out.
That's like I know people say that's extreme, but like it's so positive to hear that people are like supporting local again now that we have like this kind of freedom to go to like businesses and hospitality and stuff like that. So I think it can only be a good thing, right? Like I was just saying to you outside, or imagine since how long is it again since you have started performing? Is it May that you were allowed to go back to?
Yeah, I mean it was sort of, I'd say probably end of May. No, actually, I'm trying to think. No, it was end of May was like still with restrictions in a lot of places. So like the places that could do it, they were having like more kind of seated events and stuff like that. And then really like the last week in July was when everything kind of that's when it was just
when like most restrictions have been moved, and that in terms of the social distancing and that.
Yeah.
Was it quite frustrating as like a performer to like go into a venue again, but like be controlled numbers and that? So like it obviously takes probably a bit away from the atmosphere.
It just depends. It's good and it's bad in some ways. Like it's good because there's just an emphasis on just kind of like playing kind of maybe more chilled out music, or there's no real pressure as a performer. Sometimes like maybe it's self-inflicted pressure that musicians we put on ourselves, but you want to get people up and into the spirit of everything. Exactly. You want to get them going. So when they can't, like they're not allowed to, no one's allowed, it's like Soviet Russia, everyone's sit back down, sit back in your chair. Nobody's allowed to kind of get involved in that kind of atmosphere. You've just to kind of I suppose just focus on your own performance, and in some ways that was quite good. But it's always nice, and I think any musician would agree with you, it's always nice to have that crescendo and have everybody
enjoying the energy, because that's the thing. It's music's like a thing that's meant to be shared, right? Like music was never invented to withhold in yourself and just keep yourself for your life, you know what I mean? But
absolutely, yeah.
We'll get right into it, mate. So the first question I always ask people I talk to that are in music and that is a bit about their early life, where they grew up, and what was the first experience of music that they came across that inspired them to take it up as a passion/career, I suppose.
So I'm kind of, there wasn't really I suppose a properly defining moment, because I started when I was like maybe 6 or 7 years old. My mum made me go and take piano lessons.
Yeah.
And I hated it. Yeah. Honestly hated it.
Do you think that's just because it was something that you were instructed to do rather than it being your own free choice?
Could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been that. And you're also really young at the time, so I suppose in that sense I didn't really sort of like understand the relevance of it. You know, like saying maybe it was being a kid, you were just kind of made to go do something. And I had the nicest old lady, Gladys Farker, I think her name was, nicest teacher. She was like, she'd give, take you in, get like a chocolate biscuit or something like that, and then you sit down, and she had this grand piano. She stayed in like a little house up from Dr. Gray's, and had a grand piano. And it was, I mean, now as someone who can appreciate that, I'd be like, oh my God,
like proper geek it out over there.
I love it. Yeah. When I was a kid, I couldn't have cared less. And when it came to times to stop that, I never really kind of took it up from there. But then I would say probably when I got to secondary school, that was really the bit that, when you took music, I was like, hang on, I used to do this. And then it kind of came a little bit back to me, and then I picked up guitar relatively, I wouldn't say easily, but like I spent a lot of time like trying to get good on guitar, get good at what I could do. And then just from there, I just kept that, I kept that going. And I'm trying to think if there's like when my first live music performance, 'cause I don't think I ever watched live music really until I was even again in my late teens. I saw the Eagles live. I think that was one of my first concerts in Hampden in Glasgow, and that was something else.
Yeah, that must have been bouncing.
Phenomenal. yeah, that was absolutely amazing.
Because obviously, like you've got the standing area as well, right? Because obviously it's usually like a sports ground, whereas like there's obviously the capacity of the seats plus the standing area.
Yeah.
We've said a couple of times on here before, I think to properly like I remember going to like one of my first concerts and looking at people in the seats and going, why are we not there? That looks way more comfortable.
Yeah.
But then after it, like even like the stuff that sucks, like the cramp and that after in the hotel room and getting up at like 3 a.m. and walking out like a headless chicken for 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
That's all part of the experience of going to a gig.
Oh totally. Yeah.
And it's stuff that leaves like imprinted memories on your mind, which I think is probably the most powerful thing that you can get out of live music, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, my dad was the unfortunate guy who was in the seats because when we went there was always there's this woman who'd been to see that she had a young kid with her as well, and she'd went to see them in like 5 different countries, just followed them on tour for like a brief stint of it as well, and she would get up and stand up and be like, giving it beans, and my dad's like 5'2" or something.
Yeah.
He's a shorter guy. So he's like, every time this woman would get to stand up, he was just in his way. So just going off at the side, it's like probably quite a funny thing. And people who maybe know me from school would know that, but I don't have a cool like musician that got me into playing guitar. Like the musician that got me into playing guitar was James Blunt.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, I don't know I'd actually, you know what, in reference to your question before, like that was a moment that kind of made you think like, oh, I thought that was quite cool. I liked the acoustic, and I liked how he played his songs, and it was just relatively simple. Do
you think, like, because you mentioned secondary school, which seems to be like quite a common theme with the people that I've spoke to before, and it almost feels like you get to an age in high school, right? So you're entering your teenage years of where you're obviously approaching becoming an adult. Yeah. And you're starting to kind of think, not more freely, because I don't want to make it sound like, you know, that you're conditioned or something from a young age not to express yourself, but like freedom of expression and freedom of thinking and like people's individuality kind of starts to arise from that kind of years. It does, yeah. You start, well, even in terms of just once you get there, you get more creative subjects. Yeah, so exactly. Naturally people are going to gravitate towards different creative fields. So I think that's probably true, I would say. And yeah, just like there's just some guys who that's just what they gravitate towards, and I think that was always something that I just had a passion and enjoyment for. Were you always someone that made a decision and you knew that was what you were going to go through with? No, that was it. So I suppose in a sense we're talking about precondition. Like I was kind of always taught like getting a job and making a lot of money was the sort of, that's the thing. That's what you should do. That's what everybody should strive to do. It's the responsible thing to do. It's the responsible thing to do. That's it. Yeah, that's what you should do. And I think like because I had that kind of way of thinking sort of put into the back of my head, I sort of like, oh, well, you know, music's nice, but I can never really make a job out of it. I can never really do that. You know, that's just probably not going to be on the cards for me. So I kind of went for a more technical side to things, and I did everything. I left school at the end of 5th year, got good hires, went to college, did college for a couple of years, and got a job working in oil and gas, for doing like electronics. Did that got offshore, which to some people, like they think like that's you've made it right there. Yeah. Oh great, that's the dream done. And I did this job. I started this job, and I think even once I had like a few trips under my belt, I was like, "This is not for me." And it wasn't that I didn't like I could deal with the job being just on land, but it was like I had to go away, and I couldn't plan anything. I was like the guy that worked Monday to Friday, but if they need you, then you have to go away, kind of thing. I'd imagine that's quite claustrophobic as well. Obviously, being in an oil rig, whereas I don't want to make sound cynical, but if you have a job on land and like it doesn't go well, you can just leave.
Yeah,
Do you know
that's
what I
it.
mean?
Yeah,
You know, like-
that's it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you when you're out, I mean, it's a lot, sometimes I would say it wasn't always wasn't always hectic, but sometimes you would go away and it was to fix something, and there was a big there was a time limit on because they needed to have the bit of equipment ready to go for sometimes £1 million worth of a job to run, so no pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
But you would just go out and get it done. Yeah, the thing was, I couldn't really preach to the choir because everybody out there, they don't all want to be out there.
Yeah,
Exactly. They're all there because it's their job. So I don't want to be out there going, oh, this is shit. I don't want to be here.
It's kind of like that. I don't want to say chasing money because I don't want to make it sound like any money's but obviously you need money to survive.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's just
course.
like a fact of life in the world that we live in. But I'm going to bring this up again. I've literally said this in every episode, but I'm quite a big Dave Grohl fan.
Yeah,
and he was talking about people should do music, whether they're good at it should be out of the question. Like if they suck as a band, like suck together.
I love that statement
in the garage, and I've always kind of resonated with that. And a lot of the people that I've spoke to have left the job or decided to put it to a side to pursue music, and I really do respect that because not a lot of people will take risks in their life, and not saying that's down to them. I think like we've just talked about the whole kind of for lack of a better word, conditioning.
Yeah, totally.
Like I was someone that like left school pretty prematurely because I was a bit misbehaved as a child, but there was other things there as well. But I remember going to like an employability thing at the council.
All right, okay.
And I would meet with I can't remember the official title, but it was someone at the council that helped young people get into work and that.
Okay.
And they were asking what I was interested in that. And during my time away from school, I got quite into like stuff like flip books and animation and stuff like that.
Okay, sweet.
And that's what I'd kind of tunnel vision myself as that's what I'm going to do because it's. I think once you do, I've said this a lot of times. Well, once you put your mind to something, especially as a young person, and get success or see like growth in what you're doing from it, you'll never beat that euphoria again. I don't think so. I think that's why the first creative thing that you pick up is the thing that you're most likely to pursue.
I think so. Yeah.
But they were all kind of the mindset of like, well, but that's pretty hard. Which I'm not saying that they're not within the rights to say that. I'm not saying they should be like, oh yeah, no, actually, let's just put all this money into you and you do that for something that. But I think the kind of discouragement away from it is also quite a negative thing, especially for like a lot of people's like mental health, something that's been talked about the last couple of years. And obviously, you don't want to just like down someone's hopes and dreams, especially if they put effort into it, right? Like. So yeah, I wanted to talk to you about your singles that are available on Spotify.
Yeah.
I had a listen to them on repeat a couple of nights ago.
Awesome.
And I was reading in your Spotify bio that you've got a big kind of belief in the kind of storytelling behind music and songs and stuff.
Very much so, yeah.
And I wanted to kind of ask you how the NYC and Picture, I believe, are the single names. Came about and what work went into them, and then I'll ask you the other question that I've got after that.
So I'll start with NYC then, because that was the first one that I released, and I said I write with a guy called Fae Moray, who was a guy that I met again high school, same thing. He was another guy that we just clicked with like being able to write things for whatever reason, don't know why, but that it's funny if we could go back and kind of read some of the things that he would write at the time. It was proper angsty, emo, teenage kind of vibe things. And some stuff I look at it now and I'm thinking, I could not make a song like that. I mean, it was just complete downer. But I mean, obviously he's grown and things like that. So really, it's that was actually I obviously write on my own. But NYC was a lyric that I got from Barry, and actually, to be fair, like a lot of the music came from him too. And it was just him. He was describing his love for the city in New York.
Yeah.
He'd been there, and that just automatically became his favorite place. And I didn't get it. I was like, it's a city. Sure, it's like any other kind of city. But he loved New York, and he describes it in just kind of the best kind of terms of it's like the lowest lows and the highest highs, and just a great place where you can there's honestly so much you could do.
Yeah, it's a city that never sleeps, right?
That's
what
it,
it's
yeah.
nicknamed,
You really just can't imagine how I think it's whenever you go to any kind of city, I suppose there's that kind of, it's hard to imagine having sort of just the comparisons. It almost kind of flips, and you can see like, I wanted to say poverty, but poverty in some areas and poor areas and bad areas, and then you have just this immense wealth. Yeah, it's in the same thing there too. And then of course it's I think I was thinking on the way over here, like a lot of things are kind of snakes and ladders, really, like even kind of cities and things like that. So New York, in that sense, like it's just people that are just, that's their world, and that's it. But he just loved the experience of everything that you could do there. So really, as much as I would say that song for me is you know, I've got my name kind of to it, it's really his kind of brainchild. I did go there myself a few years ago, and I kind of understand. I got what he was talking about.
You kind of the mentality, like, I'm going into this and I'm not going to agree to him, and then you were just kind of feeling yourself maybe kind of sliding towards
completely, because it became we did a little tour, not a little tour, just a little kind of holiday in America. We went to New York, New Jersey, Nashville, San Francisco, and San Antonio in Texas. So
that's a very versatile range.
A pretty big range of places, and I'd say probably our favorite place was New York, because again there was just so much that you could do. I mean, it even when we got there, it was such a weird setup. We went to, I bought a phone from, I know I'm going complete off story, but I bought a phone from the car phone warehouse that was supposed to be a SIM-free phone, right? So fine, great, get to America, I'll get a SIM, laughing, fine, didn't work. Oh, took it to a T-Mobile, SIM card didn't work, so shit, Christ. So then we went to a Dunkin' Donuts just to get our bearings, because
proper 90s film kind of setting.
Oh
right there.
Yeah, totally. So we're in this Dunkin' Donuts, right, and we're sitting by the door. So if you imagine the door was maybe behind you. And this guy came in, right? And he was a homeless guy. And he asked my girlfriend, Jen, he was like, you know, any chance I could get some money so I could get something to eat? And we'd just been off, like, we've been up for like 14 hours or so, like from the flight and everything like that. And I thought he was asking, could you possibly like go up and get me something to eat?
Yeah.
And I was like, just total confusion. I'm like, no, mate, you just got it yourself. It's fine. Yeah. And he was like, am I speaking English? Like, can I get something to eat? And then it kicked off between the guy who's working behind the counter and this homeless guy, and he was, and he was telling him, get out, and then it proper almost came to an altercation. Like the guy who was homeless pretended he had a gun or a knife or whatever, and then he snatched a bag that we had on the table, but he thought it was his bag, kind of thing. So we had this kind of weird altercation to start our travels to meet, and then this guy behind just goes, "Welcome to New York."
Yeah, I think that's just like a regular day occurrence there, right?
Completely.
Like from what I get from the atmosphere, I've never been myself, obviously, but from like seeing it in films and documentaries and even like YouTube videos, you go down a rabbit hole on YouTube sometimes, like 10 at night, like I might move to New York or something. Obviously, it's a bit impossible now, but
I'll never say never.
Yeah, maybe in 2025 or something.
Maybe.
But, and they were talking about how like the kind of, it's like one of the homes of multiculturalism, New York, right? Like
Very
there's neighborhoods from immigration and stuff. Like Ireland's a big one. I think there's like a Russian community and Chinese, and it's all in, like you said, like it's like 3 islands, right? There's like Long Island, Manhattan, all these different kind of lands of mass around the water and all that. And they were talking about like kind of people's demeanor has always been very confrontational, and it will like spark very quickly if something comes from it. So I'm not too surprised to hear that, to be honest.
No.
But the vibe that I got from the song personally is it was sounded like something you'd expect in like someone going to New York for the first time in like the movies, and how like they have like the skyscrapers about, and there's like people in a taxi and all that.
That's that, and that was really it, because it was from his first time of going there and just being in complete awe of that kind of city. Even then, the first day when we were in New York, I'm kind of there thinking like, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? Honestly, like, because we just had this, this flight, phone doesn't work, people starting fights and things like that, getting used to the subway system and all that kind of jazz. But once we got there for a few days and like really got to get around, we only were on Manhattan. but you could be there for so long, and you wouldn't see everything. I really got it. When we were going around, we didn't do the touristy things. Didn't do the things, because that stuff just doesn't really appeal to me. Like go up the Empire State, or just doing what everybody else does. Like I don't feel like you actually really take in like what it's about. So you go to kind of I won't say the weird, well, maybe the weird and wonderful. You go to kind of the less kind of touristy things, and I think you'll pick up so much more from a city in that way.
I think it's also because we live in quite obviously not to the extent of New York, but we live in quite a touristy place ourselves. Like if you go to Culloden Battlefield, like you'll be lucky to meet a local. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, but that's what it's there for. Obviously, at the end of the day, but I think that's kind of what puts us off, like, because like we're kind of seeing tourists all the time up here and that, But it almost kind of sounded like, I hope you don't mind me saying, it almost kind of sounded like something that, like a quite a softer version I'd expect out of Green Day.
Yeah, do you know what? That's a fair point. Yeah, I could see it. Well, originally the version that I got because he would send me demo tapes, right? And they would usually come with like very overly distorted guitars and just kind of mashed together with a little drum machine or something. But it was enough. It's enough to kind of get there. And I just kind of tried to find the balance of like making it a ballad, but still keeping it kind of punky, which is how he had it kind of originally. So that's probably how it kind of ended up more having a Green Day-esque sound, because obviously they do kind of a lot, well, more so now, they seem to do like loads of ballady type stuff. But yeah, I could definitely see that in terms of sound and things like that. And then I had to get my own little touches with like piano and guitar harmonies and stuff like that. You know, that was the song for me, which in terms of when lockdown happened and I kind of got these recordings together, that was the one that was like proper dipping the toe in the water. And you'll probably know more about know a bit about this yourself, and probably having an audio engineer, all podcasts and everything like that. You know nothing about it. Yeah, absolutely nothing about like what mixing, mastering, what's the difference between any of the processes. And that was the one I'd figured it all out, because it's all changed now. I got down this little rabbit hole of how they used to make stuff, or how they did it. Before, they'd have what's called dynamics, and you know what that means. So they would let songs have their own dynamics, so own natural loudness and quieter points, and it would all be just kind of brought up to have like a peak hit at a certain level, because obviously at the time when they had, older kind of record players and speakers, they don't want to create a record that's going to blow someone's speaker, so they have to keep things at a certain level. And then as technology and things got better, CDs and things like that, and when they looked to remaster CDs, they realized that they could just bring the level up on everything. So everything was really compressed and brought up. So, but it had no natural dynamics. And now Spotify and YouTube and all the other kind of streaming places that there are now want to go back to having things with dynamics, because then essentially they get to control the volume levels and things like that. So, I think I was about to release that as I just went through that article and found, I was like, okay, so I've made this song far too loud. It's going to get turned down on all the streaming sites. It's like, what do I do? Kind of thing like that. But then, it all sounded okay, and it sounded fine. It was. I'm always immensely critical of the things I do. I think that's the thing that's been half the problem with me getting music out, is I'm always thinking too much about, does that sound right, or
but are you your own biggest critic?
Absolutely, 100%, no doubt about it. I mean, probably the things that I'm critical about, people be like, what are you even talking about? It's just, I know Barry is one of those guys. He's like, just get it out there. Go for it. I'm like, no, but I've got to make sure, I've got to make sure it's all sounding perfect. I've got to make sure I've got the CQ right. And I'm bad for it, but it's getting that out there. I was like, okay, it's out there, fine. It can only, if it's not good by my own standard, it's only going to get better from here. And it got radio play, and it got, airtime, some airtime on Rapal, who's obviously on the western side of things, but she's really good at like playing, I think, a lot of like newer music from kind of this area as well. So I was like, well, it can't be too bad if they're playing it on the radio, So.
It's good to have those avenues as well, though, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, I had Cameron Simpson on a couple months ago.
Oh, yeah, no, Cameron.
And we were talking about, he was in a band called The Suede, and I actually remembered this at the time. They'd released a single because he brought out a box of T-shirts and actually with the van cover
Oh,
on them
brilliant.
and stuff like that. And I think it was, I can't remember if it was America or Australia, but it was one of the two had
Right.
played it on a radio station over there,
That's
and that
cool.
kind of blew my mind because
Yeah.
not to say that I don't think anyone from Murray can be successful with music, of course. I think, like I said to my musician I had in recently, I think the music scene in Murray is probably one of the biggest things that the area has going for it. But yeah, that kind of blew my mind. That it was like the half other side of the world was playing like music from here.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think it's such an insane avenue that you can get things from here. Also, if I'm not mistaken, Cameron's got a heavier type of sound, which is anyone who's got that kind of sound is always going to get airplay and the kind of the further you think more like Amsterdam, Australia, maybe South Africa and Japan, and like there's avenues for that type of music all over the world.
They've got good metal demographics, I think it's
Definitely,
fair to say.
Yeah, totally, yeah, for sure. And that tends to be these kind of countries that it's not. We have a scene for it in the UK, but it's nowhere near as big as the scenes in like Germany or other places would do for that kind of heavy metal kind of sound.
Do you think that maybe has like a reflection on culture at all?
I think so. Yeah, completely. And you've also to think of probably just the origins of heavy metal too. It's always going to kind of go to these places. So yeah, as far as that song goes, that was just it was a great way to get started, and it was a great way to just kind of dip my toe in the water of getting music out there and doing it. What was quite cool was the video that I'd made for it. I managed to make a collage of like people who were on my page as photos from people who'd been to New York. I thought that'd be quite good, and it was quite a nice way to just kind of say thank you to the people who had been watching my live streams and stuff like that, and then kind of got them a little bit more kind of involved. But it also went against me at one point because I put this post up looking for photos, right? Saying, have you been there? Anything you could send me would be absolutely great. I'll try and use as much as I can. And then I got this one woman who must have posted about 40 photos on the comment thread of the Facebook post, and I'm just getting ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, Facebook compresses every photo, so I can't use any of these, But no, it was really good, and I got such a good response and such a good amount of content from people. And actually, a guy I met in New York as well. I was almost on the verge of releasing the video, and then I got this guy's photos, and he's he actually, I think at the end of the video he showed the lockdown when people were in their apartments banging on pans.
Oh yeah. Like the stuff they were doing in Italy and stuff like that as well.
So he managed to catch that like a bit, so I managed to get that in the video. But some of his photos and his shots were absolutely insane. He was catching New York like in the winter time where snow it was all over the place, and he just had such the stuff that we would, because a lot of the people that would have given me photos that would have been probably fans that would have been in Scotland got like a lot more of the kind of common places you would see, like more of the touristy type stuff, So, but it was good though, because I got like some great water pictures. I got some photos of people on the bridges and all the places that you kind of want, that you'd associate New York
stuff
with,
like the Hudson River and all that.
Yeah, all those kind of things. But then when the guy who lived there sent me his stuff, he kind of managed to send me like the weird and wonderful graffiti and all these different bits, which just. Like I needed to put that into, because that's that someone who's from New York will know that. So someone who's not from New York will appreciate the big kind of
authenticity of your intentions behind it.
That's what I tried to sort of get with that. And that was fun putting that together. It was really good. And that's like I said, I got relatively good feedback from that song. I need to get out and get playing these songs. You get me thinking about it. I need to get out and playing. I want to just get more kind of originals nights and things like that, where I'm just playing my own songs. I love playing covers gigs. I love doing that. I love getting the crowd.
Yeah, so you drop a Michael Jackson, Billie Jean recently.
Yeah. That was the first song I ever learned on a loop pedal.
Oh, really?
It's one of the few ones that I tend to make most of my stuff live when I'm there. But when I started, obviously, sometimes my confidence with using the loop pedal would have been, nowhere near what it is now. So I thought, right, okay, I better make sure I've got something like pre-record, because slight things I call slight complexities, you know, like now I can still do that live. Back then was like, oh my God, you know, can't do that. So I had stuff pre-recorded, and then when I just played it back, I thought, it sounds terrible, like compared to just what I can just make on the spot. So I thought, right, well, let's just see if I can do it, and then managed to figure it out, and then just got that going, and it's strange how things evolve, and then you manage to find that.
Surprise yourself with what you can actually do, what you think you can't.
Yeah,
like,
completely.
I used to come into these and I have like 2 pages of questions because like I need to make this fit in and make it over an hour or whatnot. And then I'd look back at some episodes and I'd be like, oh, that was pathetic. But I think a lot of that is really in your own head. Like you said, with being like your own worst critic in that. I think the type of lenses that you put on whilst viewing your own work is very critical, when a lot of people that follow you and support you and all that are not really looking at it like that. Do you know?
Not at all. Like, for example, you saw me playing in Forest yesterday. I personally thought that wasn't a great gig. From not in terms of like the people in the crowd and everything that were there. I just feel in terms of my performance wasn't as good as it could have been. Right? You know, I felt I had like a few mistakes. You know, probably like a handful of mistakes that I'm thinking like, you know, it's not the best. You know, it's okay. Not as good as it could have been. You know, but people were happy, so you know, I'm happy. But I feel like I could have done better.
But I think we all kind of have our own ego in a way, in the sense of it seems just to be part of the human makeup of we have to kind of realize that learning is how we grow, right?
Yeah,
but
completely.
At the same time, we never want to be in that situation of where we think, oh, I could, you know, I've done that. You know, we are saying that, but we try to stay away from that as much as possible. But we always find ourselves viewing ourselves as if we're there anyway.
Of course. It's just finding that balance, because as a musician, you don't want to be the kind of person that thinks, "Oh well, everything I did was fantastic." You know,
because someone will call you out.
Oh yeah, 100%, yeah, for sure. And there's nothing worse than being alongside another musician who thinks that they played something spot on and done things completely wrong. Like I've met a guitarist before who's played solos perfect, completely in the wrong key.
Yeah.
So like perfect in terms of like the notes and things like that, but like. It was just, you know, it was down a key from what we were actually playing it in. You know, and you know, it's sometimes it's a tricky one because you don't want to be. Again, it's like you say, you don't want to kill creativity, kill kind of what people are doing, but you also need to be able to kind of okay, you know, maybe take it up a couple and you'll be good. Yeah, that'll be all right. So yeah. I suppose onto the next song, I would say Picture.
I got from it, if NYC was over here, Picture's on the other end of the spectrum, man.
Yeah.
It, from what I took of it, and this is obviously just as an outsider looking in, and obviously music I think is a quite subjective thing anyway. Completely. So I always kind of I'm hesitant, like, should I say this about a song? Because they might just go, that's nothing what it's about. But
go for it. Yeah.
It seemed to me that it was about getting over bereavement, or a bereavement.
Yeah. It was probably I think it was sort of, it was written about my grandfather. He lost my grandmother, and then he passed like about a year after that. But it was a strange, it was me. Sometimes like when you write things, you sort of try to get in the head of someone else and sort of imagine what they're thinking about and how they are. And I think that it was partially a song of me just thinking of myself, obviously losing the two of them, but then him, probably what he would have been thinking, losing his wife of such a long time. And that was really what kind of that sparked that one, and that was one that just didn't take me a long time to pen together. Sometimes, I love when you get a song like that, even if it's not necessarily about the nicest. Like the nicest kind of subject matter. When you sit with something and you're like, oh my God, you need to keep, you know, I'm trying to figure out that one just came. That one was just.
I can tell it's powerful stuff to you, even with the way that you're speaking about it just now. And I, you know, it shows through the song. You know, it's a very eerie. I don't know if I'm using the right word there.
No, I think that's fair. Yeah, for sure. I tried to keep it very simple as well. Like, you know, it's. And I didn't really delve too much into, like, I wouldn't say even the kind of the press releases and the stuff that I did when I sent to the radio stations. I didn't kind of really go into that, because sometimes it's not necessarily something you want to bring up on, you know, in an interview, or you want them to say, well, this is what the song's really about. But that was it. So, you know, I kind of just sort of, I think when I sort of penned what it was supposed to be about, I just kind of said it was more you know, a song about love and loss and things, you know, just that kind of idea. But yeah, it was complete on the other side of the spectrum, and that for me was one that if NYC was easy to record, that was probably the hardest, one of the toughest ones to record, even in terms of instrumentally, because any musician will tell you as well, when you sit down to record a song, that's when you really know what you actually have to really think about what you've kind of written. So you think about little melody lines, lyrics, or in my case for this one was the actual acoustic parts. I had a rough idea of what I was playing, but then when I had to sit down and actually record it in parts, I was like, right, I need to actually have this is what it's going to be, and actually make a finalized decision. And then I threw like harmony guitars and different things on it too, just to make things even more complicated. And you'd be laughing seeing me in the booth with my acoustic, you know, figuring melody lines out, and it's the most uncomfortable chair to sit on. And when you record acoustics, I do it with microphones. Yeah. So you're often sitting in a really awkward thing to make sure you get the right things lined up. I've got a ruler when I record acoustics. I've got a ruler to make sure the space, because if the mics are out of phase, everything can get like totally messed up. Man. So it was for as easy as a song as it came to write down, it was a very difficult song to record.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely found when I went to live music, maybe at the pub or something like that, because that's what I think one of the good things about this area is like local pubs and that always have live music and stuff like that nowadays. And I think that's a very good thing to get people exposure and just to get their name out there, you know.
100%.
But I would remember I would see all the wires and stuff taped down. I would never get it. I was like, why is someone being hired to do this? But now, from doing it myself and kind of seeing, like, I'll kind of feel like if I had the budget, I'd probably try to get someone to do that myself now, you know?
Oh, completely, yeah. Setting up and taking stuff down is the worst. Yeah. It's absolutely... And as a musician, what you'll find, I think what everyone will have found, is that you start with wanting to get the biggest speakers, you know, the most equipment, the most pedals and whatever you can to your gig, and then eventually, however many pubs you take that to, and you have to lug it up an awkward set of steps or whatever, take it down. Eventually, it just beats you down until you're at the point, right. I just need something really convenient to do that, and that's what I've, you know, everybody tends to go for now. That's why my setup is just. I played in the Botanic House in Inverness, a really cool venue, a couple of weeks ago, and there was a band that was playing after me. I think the Bohemian Monk Machine, maybe was their name. I could be wrong, but they, you know, full on funk band, you know, trombone, everything, and guy with pedals and getting amps delivered and all this. And there's me with my pedal board, my acoustic, and I'm like, I'm good to go. Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a bit about gigging, because even though this is probably the first time that we've met in terms of having a conversation, I have seen you previously. Yeah. Cause when I started the podcast, I knew that I wanted to do. Obviously, we do like lots of topics and speak to loads of people and stuff, but I wanted to solely focus on something that the area is known for. And when I used to go out, like at the weekend and stuff like that, as a youngster,
as a young lad,
I would notice that like there was a different musician on every weekend, and it would not just be like the pub that I was going to, it would be every single pub in the town and the town, and I just knew that everyone, you know, was doing really well for themselves, and there was a really versatile range of music. Like it wasn't just specified to one. Like I spoke to a musician who's a folk musician the other day, and you know, it just kind of blows my mind, like the different styles. No, it's all right. Like, you know, New Mode, I mentioned them. Bad Actress. You know, it's just total different kind of branches out on what we have, you know.
Oh, completely, yeah.
I just think that's incredibly powerful for the area, and I think it's good for morale as well, especially the times that we've been through the last 18 months. I think so. Kind of coming back out of the darkness, if you will. But I remember the first time I seen you was at a beach bar, mate, rest in peace.
You know something? I was the last person that should have played. I was
Oh.
booked on the day. I was booked to play on the day that it burned down. So if you think like that's a fair effort to go to make sure I don't come and play at your venue, you know.
Yeah. There's been lots of speculations of why that place burnt down.
But that's obviously, they're like, oh, that guy's coming again.
Yeah. But I remember seeing you at an open mic, and I think that's something that I haven't really seen in a while. Maybe I've just not been in the
Red. That reminds me. It wouldn't have been Red Shoes, no, but it was something else though. It was Phoenix Nights, I think.
Yeah.
Phoenix. That sounds like it probably that was what it was.
And I remember you. I remember you because of the hat. Because I remember you always wore the same style of hat, and you walked up with acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And I just everyone had been playing like instruments up until then, and I think was it Somebody to Love or something? I think you sang.
Yeah.
And I remember I just kind of remember like whoa, like I remember like it gathered people through to the hall.
Yeah.
And like I'd never seen anything like that before, especially locally. It's like something that, like they tell you happens in films, you know, like. And I just. When I was thinking about who we could have on, obviously like a new Cameron from before, and I've reached out to people and that, but that was like the first kind of thing that flashed in front of my eyes.
Fantastic, yeah.
And I was like, we'll speak about this a bit later on because I've got a topic about maybe outside of music and that, but I know that you train at SBG Moray and stuff like that, and there's a guy that trains there as well. Do you know Lee
Stewart?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I know him, so I was just like messaging, just to like if I've got the right person, you know what I mean? Because I remembered the name, and then I was like, it could be the right, you know what I mean?
Of course,
and it just kind of all got fuzzled up in my head. But we're here, and it's all
good,
clarified.
Yeah, that's it.
What was it like for you when live music shut down?
It was a bit of disbelief, I'd probably say. It was, and sort of to keep me going, I think I kind of was like, okay, I don't suppose it really got to me, like, because I understood it was just like the whole world, everything got shut down. So I was like, I've nothing special about me, everybody's had to do the same thing. And I thought like what I'd keep going is when the first lockdown happened, I was thinking it probably won't be until like October, November time before we're back at it. I don't think, so I was putting a decent bit of time on before I thought anything was even going to remotely happen, and it was a strange one for me. I've got a song that'll be coming out that's kind of aimed it towards the introverts of lockdown who actually didn't hate it that bad, but for me, it kind of allowed me to be, and it's a term that I sort of would use loosely, but kind of a bit of a bedroom musician, like. Because that's just all gigging was really all I really focused on for a long time. At the time when lockdown happened, I was kind of in quite early stages of building my own page and trying to have a bit more of a social media kind of outreach than I usually would have done beforehand. Because if you're good, the thing is, to any musician, if you're good live, Facebook, YouTube, none of that matters. If you're good live, places want to book you. You can earn money. You can do it. That's what it is. So work on being good live, and then
the rest
will come with it. Yeah, that's it.
I think there's a unique connection between physical live performance, right? I think with as we've seen with Zoom concerts, which I'll bring up in a second, there's almost like a firewall in between, the performer and obviously the audience. Yeah. Like I watched a few of them, and I'd seen that you'd done a couple yourself from scrolling through your page the other day. Yeah. And I've got to admit, I found them quite alien. And I it's weird because it's not like people haven't done that before in terms of like a YouTube video's kind of like a Zoom concert.
Of course, yeah, for sure.
But I think it was just because, everyone was kind of in the same boat of like looking around and there's like no atmosphere because you're kind of locked within the four walls of your own domain,
Yeah. I mean, that was really it. I mean, once that lockdown happened, I managed to just kind of turn my attention. Once I saw that people started doing it and started, people were tuning in because there was really like
nothing to
do. So, a few weeks after I got myself a little set up and just went for it and played and got a relatively good response, and that really helped kind of build my page, which then kind of in turn I thought, well, I've got these songs that are sitting in the side, I can get them recorded, so I never really kind of stopped trying to push myself, even though I didn't have the live avenue anymore.
It must have been good for your own well-being as well, right?
It was.
Still performing in a way. Obviously, it's not the exact same experience that you, and I'm sure you're happy that everything's opened up now. But
for sure. But definitely, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, when everybody says to me, they're like, "Oh, thanks so much for doing your lives. It helped keep us going, help doing that." And I'm always saying back to people, like, to be honest, it can help me go and because, like I was kind of saying there, the emphasis on being good live, that just kept me plugging away at that. Like, because if you don't do it, you will be rusty.
Yeah.
And I kind of you didn't know like what the numbers were going to be like in a couple of months' time, if that was going to be okay, great, we're all good to go now, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, shit, I'm not played any of these songs in months, so that was just a good reason for me to stay on the ball and stay kind of playing live. I have to say though as well, with doing live streams, we were talking before about being your own worst critic.
Yeah,
live streams are the absolute worst for you if you are if you're critical of yourself, especially for me. If I make like a mistake in a loop pedal or something like that, I hear it and I hear it over and over again, and I'm like,
must cause panic, and panic's the worst thing you can feel.
That's it. And then it's okay when you play live, because if you make a mistake, but folk are up and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, it's almost like the thunder of the crowd kind of
it masks it out. It masks it, yeah. But when you're there and you're just hearing it back at you, you're like, that's wrong. Yeah, that's wrong. But I've started now. So,
was there any readjustment period, like with anxiety, to go back to live performing? From everyone I've spoke to so far, it seems like the first gig is always the worst gig in terms of the first one they ever played, and they thought there might be like a readjustment period of like feeling nervous before it again, but there's just not been, because it's almost like riding a bike in a way.
For me, nerves before gigs has always been a bit of a strange one anyway, because I get nervous at gigs I've played countless times before. And there's no reason for me to be nervous, but I'll be nervous at that gig for whatever reason. Then places that are completely new to me, fine, totally fine. I've always kind of said to myself, it's like that. It's anxious. What's it like? Nerves and excitement. It's the same feeling. So when you're nervous, you're actually just quite excited to play. So I think there's maybe a bit of nerves in terms of when we first went back to play in places that had restrictions. You were maybe thinking like, oh, how is this going to go down? What can I do? What can I not do? I don't want to do too much. At the same time, I don't want to go and kind of not really have any kind of impact whatsoever. You want to go and be able to do a decent modicum of what you used to be able to do before. So, again, but I would say probably more like an anticipation of like what it was going to be like. But no, I wouldn't say nerves for me, because getting back to gigs just happened like that. Yeah. Just happened so quickly. So there wasn't even time for it.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was like a built up thing. It was just not there one day and then here the next.
Completely.
And I suppose everyone was just kind of happy to be out of the rut that we've kind of all been in for the last 18 months.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've said to people, like, obviously I'm not in control of what happens or anything like that, and I'm no expert or whatever, so I'm not going to give my opinion on whether it should have been or not. But my fear of it was the longer it went on, because I'm quite a person that needs routine. Like I know that if I don't put myself out of my comfort zone, I will take up comfort very easily. And I was like,
path of least resistance. Yeah.
The longer this goes, because the first 2 weeks I'm watching Netflix and I'm like eating crisps, and I'm someone that lost quite a lot of weight a couple of years ago, right? And I was scared that obviously it's still on me, but I knew that if I let this kind of start have a little decline, it'll nosedive very quickly. And that was kind of my concern of it going on and on and on, just because what happens when it does get lifted? Am I going to just be institutionalized in this way of living?
A little recluse, for sure. It was such a weird one, isn't it? I think, and everybody found their own things. It seemed to be one of two things. People either kind of managed to, or maybe it's sort of in the middle, but people either sort of went a little bit off the rails, with things, or maybe not keeping up with their routines, or it went the other way where people maybe kind of got their act. It was an excuse for them to get their act together.
Turn themselves.
So it's such a difficult one. Like, and now I suppose this is where people find is like, what happens now when it comes back? Can we maintain the can we maintain getting rid of the bad habits we've maybe formed, or can we maintain keeping the good ones that we've got
formed,
too? Yeah, for sure. I mean, in terms of my sort of physical thing, I got quite lucky because lockdown happened after I got my knee popped at a competition. So that had been bugging me for a long time. And then when obviously that happened, no exercise, no training, so it got the rest it needed. You know, it actually kind of helped me out a bit more. And then I got into doing a bit more kind of exercise and trying to fix my diet a bit. Although having said that, if you look at my page and see the cocktail nights, you know, it's like, you know, I do enjoy myself at the same time, you know. But yeah, I think like one song that I'm going to have coming out soon is called Ready to Go Back. And that's going to be coming out hopefully pretty soon. And it's one that I sort of kind of touching on that topic of like people who find things that they will probably like incorporate into their life, or things that lockdown didn't really change a lot of things for them, and they were just quite happy being in their own space. And you know, I know a lot of friends too who now work from home, or that's going to be possibly the new norm for them. And subsequently, like other places that are trying to get their employees back into the office, but just for the reason just to get them back in the office, like, and it's kind of almost showed that like we are capable of doing that, and we are capable of, you know, adapting when the times kind of need to. And for some people, they're just happy to do that. So yeah, this song is going to, you know, sort of touch on the sort of introverts who didn't really hate lockdown and actually thought it was, and it's the thought of coming out of it that's probably
scaring them more.
Scaring them
more.
Into it.
Which is crazy, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
Like back in March 2020, like I said, I'm no expert. I'm not, because people give their opinions all the time on this. And like I've always said, like social media comment sections are like chocolate cake. You know, you shouldn't touch it. It's going to give you diabetes.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I mean, you know, you're not going to get. And I just like every time I'm like, no, because people are just going to be saying some wild shit in there. And then like next thing I know, I've been looking at it for half an hour, and it's just like, that's poison. Why am I doing that?
It is the best chocolate cake you'll ever eat in your life. That's what it is right there. If you can. Really, what it is you just need to just take the frosting and just enjoy it. Yeah, I love coming across the comments and social media. I mean, I'm that Michael Jackson meme of eating the popcorn. I am that guy.
It's a good look into people's subconscious thinking.
Oh,
right?
Completely. And I'll use an example. Again, I'll try not. No, I'll try not to name kind of any names, but if I had a girl who is an anti-vaxxer, right?
Okay.
And she posts about it. She's not having it, kids not having it, everything. Right? Okay. And another girl who posted something, just kind of asking a generalized question about like women, like what have you kind of experienced in regard to women's things with having a vaccine, right? She's already had both vaccines, okay? And then this girl comments on her thread saying, this is why I'm not having this vaccine for this X, Y, or Z. And I just looked at that and I thought, who are you preaching to?
It seems like we live in a world now where people, I think it probably is a lot to do with the emergence of social media and the internet, of where we're so connected at all times that people kind of feel like, because we all in our own ways have our view of the world, right?
Of course, yeah.
And it seems like social media kind of perpetuates people wanting everyone to live their life the exact same that they do.
I know. I couldn't understand the sort of lack of social awareness that this person was showing. Talking to someone who's had both vaccines, telling her about why she's, you know, why it's a bad thing she's done it, and she's not going to have the vaccines. Like, and that's, you know, at that point, that was one of the points where, like, you know, I have a laugh and when I read the comments, but I looked at that and I thought, no, you're just you're scaremonger. You're scaremonger. That's exactly what. And if it was the opposite way around, like, be crying freedom of speech and how dare you, you know, it's my right to do whatever.
Well, you see, like, because it's always a political thing, right? It
always goes that way.
It's always left and right. And what I find fascinating about this, I know we're kind of drifting off music for a second, but this is what this podcast is about, for branching off, is I notice when one side disagrees with something, the other side just automatically agrees with it. Whether they agree with it or not, it's more like, I'm on this. It's a very tribalistic thing. And it's almost like I used to watch like football fans fighting. I think it was so like pointless and what that.
Oh, completely.
But now I see that as like what politics
is.
Almost, you know,
it's absolutely, it's footballification of politics.
Yeah, exactly.
And we can't just like accept like if something's been done badly by a politician,
Yeah.
you know, we can't just all turn around and say, well, that was done really badly, you know, and they shouldn't. Why were they allowed to do that, or why were they able to do that? They're almost like, if that's your team, you have to come out in defense of sometimes even the indefensible. Like, and it's on both sides too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's not a good place. It's not a good place to be, because I think you can just end up with people who they can just get away with things. They can just lie. You can just get away. And if you are conditioned because you think, you know, if maybe you agree on a certain political topic with the people who have done something wrong, you have to defend them. But you shouldn't have to defend them. You should be able to say, like, I agree with this, but what they did there was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the good old analogy of, if you're fighting your neighbor, you're not fighting the people that are like making all the decisions.
Completely,
right? Do you know what I mean? Which you'll probably get more success of challenging the people that actually have centralized power rather than someone that, you know, thinks, I don't know, I don't want to say, because I don't know what YouTube's censorship is nowadays, but you know, like I see there's a lot of hypocrisy behind it as well.
Of course,
right?
there
Like,
is,
you see, for example, like, just off the top of my head, like a very kind of right wing opinion is freedom of speech, like you were mentioning, but they also want the whole taking the knee thing in sport banned. Which is like, that's kind of suppressing freedom of expression, right? Because whether you agree with that or not,
it's their right to do it.
It's their right to, you know. So it's like, I'm always coming at it from a kind of third party neutral, because
you have to.
I feel like you kind of cloud your judgment by aligning yourself with a specific side or group or whatever, you know.
And I think something that's quite new to today is that now, I think it's insane that we have a media, and it's that actually just promote. I think it's crazy the media promote specific political sides. I think that's crazy, and it's the same with people now on their social media that they just get confirmation bias, because they only follow the things that they agree with. Yeah, that's it. So they're never
challenging their own thinking.
You know, that's it. You know, I mean, it's not nice when the people you support, you know, if there's a scandal, if there's something going there, you know, you. It's not good to think, you know, I agree with them on that, but oh, good God, you know, but it's you to accept it, you know. We're all people, we all make mistakes, and that's it, you know, and we need to be able to call things out when they happen and be able to do something about it. But
I think that's one great thing about music, though. Music is the one true thing left on the earth that can bring unity from every side of the world.
Bill and Ted 3, right?
Yeah, totally. But like, you see, like, bands, for example, from here, maybe go on a world tour, go to Japan, and the people in the crowd are singing the lyrics in English when they maybe don't even speak English as a language. You know what I mean?
Crazy,
That's what I see, and I think that's one of the most powerful, you know, I don't want to say weapons because that sounds sinister, but weapons that music has, right? Because it unifies people. When it does. You know, I think that can only be a positive thing, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Especially in a time of so much division, I suppose you would call it.
That's true. Yeah.
Have you had any awkward experiences at gigs? I would imagine since you obviously gig in a lot of hospitality venues, you come across people that have maybe got on the bit intoxicated side or something. Has there ever been, like, not hecklers, I suppose, but difficult audiences?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Do you know what? Actually, I'll give an example. About a month or two ago, I played in Inverness in Johnny Fox's, and there was this quite loud guy, quite obnoxious guy, and you know, you develop a thick skin. You know, you don't take things personally or whatever. But he asked for a request, right? And he requested, I think it's Tracy Chapman Fast Car or whatever, right? Okay. And he's like, oh, no, I'll give you money to do it, or I'll give you that. So, you know, whatever. And I didn't even notice that he went out for a fag, but it was coming to the end of my first set, so I thought, right, I'll get this request in, you know, get it in now.
Oh, right, so he missed the song.
So he literally walked, and he was there with a group of people, right, as well, all his pals and stuff like that. And he literally walked back into his table as I just struck the last chord, and that was me finish the song, and everyone was like, wait, and I was like, and I didn't even realize that was the case. It was actually him that wanted it. I didn't even realize that was the thing. But then another guy from another table, when I was on my break, said, like, did you mean to do that? He's like, because it was absolutely fantastic. And the guy's been a bit of a prick. And then, you know, when he went away, you played his song that he wanted. Yeah, I was like, So yeah.
Some things just land in your lap.
Oh, they do. I was like, I wish I did mean to do it, but I didn't mean to do it. But it was, I saw the funny side of that one. You see some of the weird and the wonderful, man.
Yeah.
You really do.
I would imagine
you really
so.
do. I mean, coming on to obviously you mentioned that I sort of train at SPG, sort of it's an MMA gym. So I met this guy, very talkative guy, and it was at the end of it's the first time I'd ever met someone like this, right? At the end of the night, he was talking to me about like the kind of, I don't know how we got on the topic, but he was talking to me like he used to be he was a very short guy as well. He was talking about like he used to be a bouncer, and he used to do like Krav Maga, Taekwondo,
semi-professional footballer,
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And what did he say to me? He was like, I said, and I did a little bit of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I'm sitting there thinking like, you know, he reeled off loads of these martial arts that I wouldn't say are like not the main ones as such, but like, you know, and he was telling me like I could pressure points, you know, I could right pressure points behind your ear and stuff like that. I could knock you out, but I'm not going to do that to you because you've got to drive home tonight and everything like that. And I'm just like, oh, that's really amazing, man. Yeah, that's so cool. You know, he's like, I just, you know, like literally swear to God, just like think, you know, I can get you in this bit like here behind your neck.
He's watching those legit as fuck videos on YouTube.
Completely, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. All that good stuff. And like, I don't know why, but that was just the first time I was like, just people are weird.
Yeah.
People are so weird. Like, why you even felt the need to come up and tell me this.
Exactly, yeah.
I have no idea. And I don't know. I don't know how people like that think that comes across. I think, oh, well, that's so amazing, you know.
Yeah, especially in pubs, like you can't rule anything. I remember a guy came around, he was giving out his business card for carpet tiles. And this was before like I made the studio, but I didn't actually get back to him, so apologies to that guy.
I know.
I lost the card. But
if you got another, send it.
Yeah. But yeah, like we were saying, like obviously you're going to get like drunk and obnoxious people. It's
of course,
just, I would imagine it's just part of the experience to an extent.
Completely. Yeah.
So I wanted to get your kind of thoughts on a bit of like music in general. So what do you think of, first of all, about Murray's local scene? I know we've already kind of touched on it a little bit. I imagine like you all kind of travel in similar circles in terms of events and venues and stuff. Yeah. I would imagine you all have a good relationship. It's not just like you are all kind of like Shaolin Showdown and the other side.
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, there's probably like, there's always going to be probably like if we were all at the same thing, there'd be a competitiveness. I'd imagine, of course, everybody's going to want to have the best show or to be the best performer of that. But no, I think we all understand what it's all about, you know, what playing and gigging and stuff like it's all like. So we don't like, I can't imagine. I mean, there maybe are musicians who absolutely hate other musicians and can't stand them, but no, I think we've all got like a respect and everything for each other, and we know what we do, and you know, but to be honest, everyone around here is really very sound, you know. Like I've never, you know, I met Chris Grant for the first time going down to The Voice in Glasgow.
Oh, really?
That's the first time I think I probably would have met him before, maybe in passing or something like that. But the first time I actually ever met him, I spent like 8 hours in a car with him. We went down. Really? We went down to The Voice auditions in Glasgow, and I got like his worldview and everything that was going on at the time. Which I mean, you're probably like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, but we actually have a signed album from the man.
That's
himself.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
We raffled one off to the listeners, but he also kept one specifically for this place. We're actually going to get a board and we're going to hang it up. Chris, don't worry.
Oh yeah. That's not. I need to get a chance to listen to that one. Always.
Yeah, he was talking about the kind of interest in kind of marketing of it, because obviously he's someone that's released quite a few albums.
Yeah, he's done a lot. Yeah, for sure.
And the physical version's obviously out now. It wouldn't be here if it wasn't. But I asked him, because the Spotify one doesn't actually release. The digital one, I guess you could say, doesn't release until December 21st.
Well, yeah, I saw he was selling them. He was selling them at just the particular place in Aberlour. If I'm
not
mistaken. Yeah, the guy who has a shop there. Yeah.
Well, he said it's, because I thought it might be to do with I can't remember what I said at the time. I'll have to watch it back. But he was saying it was to do with marketing in terms of obviously the physical copies are more of a local thing, right? Because obviously he's going to, like, more people are just going to do it locally.
Of course.
But the whole digital kind of side of it, and I suppose that's something we can touch on as well with Spotify and SoundCloud. Although I've kind of talked about this quite a lot, considering this podcast on Spotify, I might not want to.
I don't bite the hand that's
noise
feeding
up the man. Yeah. He was talking about like releasing like a single every month, and it's almost like giving people like kind of tasters to kind of nudge them in the right direction to like purchase the album.
Yeah.
Which I found quite interesting.
It was something that I kind of debated sort of doing, because for me it was originally going to be an EP, and then I talked to another guy who's another good musician, Tom Morris, who was doing his own thing and releasing songs and stuff like that, and he I had a good conversation with him, and he was just saying, well, I've done that, I've released my own albums and done things like that before, and in general it's just out there. Once it's out there, it's just out there. So I suppose like, and that kind of shot me onto more of the side of like, let's just release singles then, because then for, you know, if you've got you can try to keep the momentum of new material consistently coming all the time, even though it's not, like, say Chris has already done the album, it's out there, so anyone who's got it's got all the songs already. But for someone who's not got the album, they're going to be like, oh my god, he's going to be releasing like a song now, and then in a month or two later he releases another song. So they're always getting like a drip feed, but they're always getting something. So and it's good because it keeps his name floating about in the circles and things like that too. So I think like that's I would say that's a pretty good way to do it, because I think we've become more single orientated than we have towards albums. I think
that, stuff like lining up outside of a music store to buy like a CD is something of maybe not a dying trend, but it's not as what it once was. Like, for example, the 90s, like the 90s must have been a different total era in term, because obviously it was the only kind of avenue, right? And you know, when we talk about the digital age, most of the time that I've talked to people on this, I think there's always a positive and a negative with this, because everything's going digital. It's not just music,
of course,
but the positive I see to it is it used to be a record deal was kind of what everyone was after to make it in music, whereas now you can be independent, right? And obviously a lot more people, like, you know, paying £10 a month for Spotify and you have the world is your oyster in terms of music is, I think, a great thing from a consumer's point of view.
Of course.
But from a playing and a performer's point of view, the kind of, like, you mentioned drip down feed more for the singles, but obviously with the pay as well,
of course.
It appears... Although the other musician I had in the other night kind of made a good point in retort to that, saying that they can't pay everyone the same, because obviously like really massive artists are going to make
draw. Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're going to draw, of course. But I mean, what was it? Is it like James Blunt? He had a good tweet. If you ever get a chance to look at his Twitter feed, do it, because you'll just love reading all the comments. But he's something like 0.0004 pence per stream. And he's like, boys, the beers are on me. You know?
All one of them.
All one of them, yeah. So he's saying you got to make like on spot, even just, you know, you got to make like 1 million streams just to get like a couple of £1,000. And if you think of that from a musician's perspective, that could be like, you know, 10 gigs. Yeah. You know, 10 gigs. And so measures of success and things like that in terms of streaming, it's good now because you can get your music out there, and you can get it to your fans, and hopefully in like a platform that people have, and that's what they use, because there's so many of them. I never even knew how many there existed until I got, you know, looked into it, and I've got stuff on platforms I've never touched, and I don't know who uses any of these kind of other platforms. But I think like it's quite funny when I don't know if you maybe see this yourself. When you start uploading music to these places, you start seeing a lot of adverts for, you know, building your streams and building your followers. You see a lot of this kind of stuff, you know, pay for stream revenue kind of thing.
The one that gets me the most, the Facebook page with pay £5 to get you could be getting 650 views a day rather than 50. Like, it's the pain of my life having a page for the podcast or something.
Completely. So as much as like I think streaming, it's a necessary part of getting your music out there, I don't really put too much kind of weight into it. Really, I mean, I think once I've got enough singles out, I'll probably do something similar. I'll get a physical thing to take with me to gigs, because then you know, you say, I don't know how much Chris would sell that for, but if you say he sells it for £10 or whatever, you know, like that's 10, you know, apart from obviously the money he had to spend to obviously get people in to record the album and that kind of outlay, he's bringing that back in on himself anyway. So,
and you're more in control of the pricing, right?
Yeah, of course.
You can budget what it took to make and what you think's a fair price to. Whereas obviously with Spotify, it's kind of we're deciding this really. So
that's it. Yeah, of course. And I mean, now, and it's funny you see it now. Now I'll see musicians that are like, oh, thanks to everybody who's been streaming my single, and I'm thinking, paid for. Yeah, I know that's paid for.
Yeah,
you know,
you're losing money to get that to people.
To get that to people. You know, and again, what will come through is like it just comes back to playing live. You know, I mean, it doesn't always resonate to say like something's got loads of Spotify streams. Does that mean that people will come and watch you play a gig?
Yeah,
maybe, but not all the time. Plenty of bands that I've never heard of are on Spotify, and you can look them up and you could see where they're playing, and they're maybe, you know, it could just be a guy that does it on the side that's just kind of caught like a lucky kind of bit, and he's got a lot of Spotify streams. So I think it's good for getting, just kind of sort of overview, I think it's good for getting music out there, but I don't really put too much weight into it, because I think the reality is to like actually, you know, being able to interact with like proper fans that you have, or people who follow your music page, and people who actually like, you know, actually would come and see, if you were near where they were, they would actually come and see you. I think that's more important than getting too bent up a shape about why I've not got enough Spotify streams. You know, there's only however many listeners I get this month, you know, kind of thing. It can be
quite a bad dopamine effect sometimes.
Completely,
like streams and likes and stuff like that.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to act all high and mighty, but I do find myself getting that kind of dopamine effect of someone's like the podcast page or so. You know, I'm like, I didn't start doing it for that.
No,
but it's I can see how the whole term influencer mindset can kind of come about. You know.
Yeah, it's good to know that when you put something out that people are liking what you're putting out, and they're enjoying it, and they're hopefully wanting to come back and. For more, you know, I mean, of course that's all a part of it, but you naturally get these kind of highs and these things anyway. Like when I made my lockdown, you know, big spike in people who liked and followed the page, and this kind of, you know, slow down. It's maybe a bit more patchy now. You know, I'll have a few more, then the next month I won't have as many, you know, or whatever. Or you'll get some people who unfollow the page. And this stuff. It's just it just is what it is. You know,
you try and act humble, but you just see that and you're like, I'm going to find out who you are.
All right, see, it's not that anymore on Facebook now, but it was. You could like it, but you could unfollow it. For me.
It's just like, oh, I've liked it, but I'm not going to see anything that's going to come up.
For me, it's the other way around. I had more followers than I did likes, which was the weird one. I was like, I usually would have thought it would have been the other way around. But that was how that was. So
I hope it doesn't kill stuff like tour buses and that, which I've seen. You're taking part in a band at the moment, I believe, or you're.
I'm in a couple of bands. Yeah.
And I see you on the travels and the.
Oh yeah.
Is it a minibus or?
No, that's my car.
Oh, just a car, just a car. Okay, I apologize.
I wish we had a bus. That would be.
But
great.
like, I think what I'm trying to get at with the traveling element, like I watched a film the other night again for the first time in years called Almost Famous. Don't know if you've ever seen this film. Brilliant film.
Yeah.
And it's about a kid that kind of pretends to be a Rolling Stone reporter because he's into like reporting on music, and Stillwater, I think the band's name.
Stillwater.
And it's on.
I'm a golden god.
Yeah. And it's set in the 70s, right? And there's a scene where they all start singing Elton John's Tiny Dancer.
Yeah.
And you know, like the tour bus and that. And I hope that digital side of things doesn't take that away, because maybe it doesn't exactly happen like that, like it does in the film, but I think it's a massive part of the experience, especially if you're in a band, right, in terms of the kind of camaraderie and, you know, experiences and stories and whatnot you get from that.
I don't think it will, because you're sort of moving into a different element of music, which is now going to the live element, which is, you hope. Really, you're only thinking it's going to affect that if bands no longer play live and they just play a live stream. But I can't see that. You can't see you filling a stadium. Maybe they can. I wouldn't see them filling a stadium to watch a stream.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a cinema, but I wouldn't see I couldn't see that. So I think that will always I hope that will always kind of still be there.
There's some things that can never be overthrown, and I hope.
No, I don't think so.
The physical kind of aspect of music is one of them.
I don't think it ever will. No, it's just because it's just not the same.
Yeah,
it really isn't. You know, I mean, I'm a I'm a not critical, but like I can hear when if I ever go to something live and I'm like, okay, that's an overdubbed vocal, or that's that's not live, kind of. I can hear all that kind of stuff. So when you go to watch the real thing and and see it, and we saw Nickelback a few years ago.
Oh man,
we were gonna see them, and then Chad Kroeger had to go in to get surgery on his voice, so it delayed the concert a year, and hadn't known and seen what it had done to other artists who'd have like nodules removed. It can completely change the dynamic of their voice. So you're thinking for a guy that relies on a kind of quite a specific sound for what the music's all about, what was he going to be like? And he was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put it any other way. Had a great gig, sounded great, band sounded great. One of the best concerts I've been to, hands down.
I've always really rated Nickelback.
Completely, but people hate them.
Exactly. For some years, everyone hated them. And then they released Rockstar in 2010. Everyone loved them for 3 months. They just listened to that song. And then it went back to, anything they've done before that. And I'm like, you're wrong, but okay. I guess I accept your opinion reluctantly. But so I've got a couple more general questions for you before we go. We've been recording a bit now, but we've got a couple more minutes left of us for sure.
We're doing good, yeah. We go through however long you want.
Well, I think we've got 100 hours left, but
I'll check the diary, make sure.
I have work tomorrow, so we definitely have to be finished by today for sure. But so it's kind of more about like your life outside music, really. And obviously we touched on the SBG Murray thing. And obviously I'm taking it you're training with the likes of like Aiden Stephen and all those guys and stuff. Like he's phenomenal, man.
He's
like
a great guy, isn't he?
I remember seeing him on Cage Warriors and BT Sport before they changed it all to Fight Pass and all that.
Yeah.
And he rolled a guy into a Kimura from the fence. You remember that fight? Like
Chris Edwards.
Rolled him like some kind of tobacco with a Rizla paper.
And that's not a fun thing to get caught in. It's and to be fair, I mean, I remember I've seen the highlights so many times, and I just think to myself, I'm like, I know he tapped kind of. I think it was kind of tapped mid rolling. But the ref couldn't get in there quite quick, and
it's all a game of seconds as well, right? It can go
fun.
real wrong real quickly.
It's not a fun thing, but I mean, obviously he's been okay. He's been back to fight, but training with these guys, you just
different level, isn't it?
Oh, always. Of course it is. Of course it's going to be. It's always going to be like that.
A lot of the guys up there, they're self-taught as well, right? From when they opened the gym, if I remember correctly.
I'm not too 100% familiar on the story, but I think it came just out of interest of the UFC and the origins and like Hoist Gracie and UFC C1, and these guys just kind of self-taught themselves. I think they always were into combat sports anyway.
Just added another layer to their skill set.
That's it. Yeah. I say they're the ones you need to speak to get that full story. But they've from where they've kind of started on their own kind of martial arts journey to the gym they have now and the kind of the following and what they're doing is fantastic. It's great. It's great to see that here.
I'm easily starstruck. So when like BT Sports is like a major sports channel in the UK, someone from like Elgin being on there, like I couldn't get my head around it, especially after he did that as well.
Absolutely crazy, yeah.
And obviously, like it must be quite hard for them the last year because obviously I think Aiden he's had a couple fights obviously during the whole Corona stuff, but I think was it fall last year. I think they were training in like the garden and stuff because obviously the gyms were still not open at that point. And I've got so much respect for people like obviously do that sport, but like the stuff that they've had to the adversity they've had to face without actually being in competition, if you know what I mean. So
I mean I can imagine these guys are probably sparring me at like a level that's probably below 50% of what they can do. But to me, like to anyone who's like nowhere near the level they are, it just seems so overwhelming.
Yeah,
it's absolutely, you really can't appreciate like how good these guys are until you actually get to see them or until you get to actually train with them. And it's such an unpredictable sport, man. It's such a tough sport to train for, and because there's just so many different elements to it.
Yeah,
like styles make fights, and they said that all the time.
The whole entertainment side of it as well now, right?
That's a big part of it too. You know, it's all again about self-promotion and I mean, you see, like, obviously the rise of Conor McGregor and how he managed to do that,
and
you know.
the dramatic falls.
And the dramatic, of course, this is it, yeah. I mean, it's just such a weird, you know, I think it's a difficult thing with fighters because the big element of it is like respect.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, it's you're all there just trying to be the best version of yourself and to be the best, you know. And you've got respect for all the people that get in and do it too. And then, but sometimes, you know, even the brash people who are the arseholes can still be really good fighters as well. So,
well, you spoke about McGregor there. I mean, the big thing that I view with that guy is like 2016, probably like his peak year when he did like the whole New York thing and stuff like that. And I think there's a difference in energy now, right? I think a lot of the things that he does now are said with venom and kind of, I'm obsessed with this person because I need to
get that one back.
I need to, like, you know, kill them. That's what he seems like. Well, you know, like, I want to take this outside and all this stuff. And he was never really like that before. It was almost like he had a superiority complex of you don't matter and I'm just going to deal with you anyway. Whereas now it just seems like he kind of realized he's maybe lost something and he's desperately trying to clamor that back. You know, it's hard to do when
he's a guy that's quite his personality seems to have been different depending on who he's fought.
Yeah,
you know, he fought. Obviously, he fought Khabib, and that was quite
dark.
That was quite a dark sort of side of things. Where I think, and it just didn't work. He didn't get in Khabib's head at all. And then he had that, and then he went on to fight Cerrone, and Cerrone is a guy who
miles on the clock, really, right?
Miles on the clock, right? But he's you know, beer drinking, love life kind of thing like that.
He's an adrenaline junkie, isn't he? He's always doing crazy stuff. Yeah.
So you got kind of much a more reserved and kind of happy going Conor McGregor for that one, and then Poirier.
The Poirier one showed it all, really, right? Because this is someone that he absolutely dusted. No pun intended.
You've been thinking about that all week.
Well, yeah, I do try, but. The 2014 was it, like all that time ago, and obviously Dustin Poirier is like a really immense fighter and obviously a great person, as you see from all the work that he does in that. But I think you kind of seen the stagnation, and you can't really afford to be away from that kind of level of competition for too long because the rest of it just catches up to you. Because that last fight, even though his leg broke in that, and there's kind of a built-in kind of okay, let's do a fourth fight. Dude was getting absolutely dominated in that fight, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he had good moments, I suppose, with it. I mean, why? It speaks to his personality perfectly about the kind of guy that he is, that he would, of course, want to try and beat Poirier with a guillotine, which is Poirier's submission that he always goes for. Yeah. But that's the kind of guy that he is. You know, it's like, if you can do something, I can do something better.
Yeah.
But
it was after he said the submissions don't count and stuff.
I know, yeah.
It's like, so he submits Dustin Poirier with a guillotine.
First one to shoot's a dusty bitch. Yeah, right. So, yeah, of course, he said that. And the downside of, like, jumping a guillotine, if you don't get it, is you're going to end up on the bottom, like he was, and that was it, really. I mean,
he's hooking the glove as well, right?
Did you see that? I saw that. Yeah,
he's done that a few times now.
Yeah, I have seen that, and then throwing the up kicks too. Yeah, it's, some would say it's a veteran move, but it's dirty. It's dirty fighting, but I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult to say, but you have to. If you were looking at it, you think like, well, that wasn't a good, tactical mistake made him. If you're a fan, I think I do try to be a fan. I am a fan. I do try to be a fan as much as you can. You can say tactical mistake. He ended up on his back, and then the leg broke and that was it. But what would the second and third rounds look like? But with Dustin having such a dominant first round,
and Conor's never really exactly got better as the fight goes on, right?
You're sort of thinking, right, well, this, is favouring Poirier.
Yeah,
I think if I want to see Conor coming back, which I think he probably will. I think he probably will do. I would like to see him fight someone else.
Yeah,
I don't want to see him. I know, but he's just such a name, and then
he can do what he wants.
He can do what he wants, and he can take the biggest fights that are available to him. But I don't know if what would motivate him would be to fight someone who's maybe in 10 to 5,
or like a Tony Ferguson or something like that.
Maybe, yeah, or maybe like a Dan Hooker or somebody, someone who's a bit further down the lightweight rankings, but still in the top 10. I don't know whether he would do that because
Yeah.
the match is there, or even Nate Diaz. I'd
Yeah,
I'd rather see.
Well, we've been waiting for that for 5 years,
I know.
right? That's so mad that second fight 5
I
years
know.
ago.
I think I don't want to see him jump back into to fight Poirier again.
You've got like absolute savages at the top of that division, like Gaethje, Poirier, Oliveira's the champion at the moment, and Chandler came over. He's kind of win one, lose one, really, isn't he? A lot of the time for what I've seen in Bellator. But even like, do you remember when Ross Houston fought? Was it Dalby in Cage
Dalby.
Warriors?
That was insane.
That was the most bananas thing I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe he didn't get in the UFC. I can't believe that Dalby got in the UFC. I mean, obviously Ross is doing very well for himself. He's in Bellator and that's nothing to be head shaking at. But like, you would think, I can't believe that fight was so good from both participants, right? Like, it was stopped because there was too much blood on the floor.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. That's they actually. I mean, you rewatch that, and I think at one point Ross tries to sync up an anaconda choke, and he just can't. He just can't even base his feet to roll. You're supposed to roll into these kind of, or you can roll into these kind of chokes. He just nowhere to go. And I mean, I think it was Martin Goddard was the referee. He just stopped it and said, "This is crazy.
Yeah,
this
is nuts."
You know, like absolutely insane. And Dalby's the one that gets in the UFC, but Ross had a bit of an unlucky thing, didn't he? He trialed to be on the Ultimate Fighter, didn't he?
Yeah. And then it got his weight division got pulled or something like that. Yeah,
that was it. So it's always hopefully Bellator is the next biggest to the UFC in terms of like the promotions that are there.
It seems like very big in the UK as well, from what I've seen.
It has been. I think they've got a deal with Channel 5 or something like that, so they get a chance to watch it. There's good fights for him there. You know, there's really good things, really good tests for him.
Michael Venom Page, right?
Exactly. You know, and I would say definitely at least took one of the rounds from MVP, and MVP's fought for the title.
He's only lost to Lima, right?
That's it. Yeah. So you got to think like it's not a bad way. Even though he got the loss, he's still got his toe in the water and got to see how he fared. In that kind of competition. Sure. It's just so crazy to like think that people who are from here are
crazy, like fighting at the highest level.
It's just podcasts. One I love to watch about MMA. Maybe I don't know if you watch it yourself. It's called Weighing In.
Oh, was that with Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy?
Big John McCarthy. So when they had the Bellator card with Ross Houston, they actually had the timestamps in it where they talk about Ross Houston. And you just think, that's crazy.
That's so surreal.
It's Big John.
Yeah, this is the guy that's like at UFC 1 as the referee. He like wrote some of the rules for the sport.
That's him. And he's talking about Ross Houston. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So bad.
It's crazy to think like how quickly you can become, and that's what it's like MMA and mixed martial arts. Like it's just this community that just goes all
like
over
Hayden
the world.
said in his documentary, like Scottish MMA is on fire right now.
It is.
And it's like don't want to sound pig-headed or anything, but I think it's only a matter of time before we're going to get a world champion somewhere.
I really hope so.
That's going to be a crazy day because I think it's only is it Bisping's the only champion from the United Kingdom in the entire sports history, which is mad. Obviously, you've got like people like Leon Edwards and Darren Till and stuff like that. They're kind of fighting at their divisions and stuff. But I think it will come. Do you know, like after watching that kind of mini documentary that Aidan done, kind of talking about the whole kind of scene of it and stuff like that, and I've went on to follow more people like I believe Chris Duncan, the guy from, is it not Scott Squad? That's the TV show.
He's debuting in the UFC, isn't he? Or Dana White's Contender Series, is he? Yeah.
But yeah, loads of guys, man, and it can only be a good thing, right? Because
I think so.
We were talking about. I think I was talking about this to one of my co-hosts a couple of weeks ago. Is people like, I remember my dad used to say to me like, why do you like that? It's a blood sport, cockfighting, all this kind of stuff.
I know, but did he also like boxing?
Well, no, not exactly, but he put boxing on one night, right? Which I didn't have the remote, so like, okay, fair enough. If you think it's that, then we don't have to agree or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But the thing that I appreciate about it the most is the humility of it, especially when people get like beat or suffer a loss, but they've been working so hard to win, and how people handle that. I think it's such a rare commodity in today's world, like what we were talking about earlier, like football and politics and all that kind of jazz. You never see that. People will go to ends of earth to make excuses, or they've not done anything wrong. Where people most of the time in fighting, obviously there's people with like personas and that, they just keep it going, like the heel WWE style. That it's real. I remember watching a video like most honest moments in combat sports history, and it makes you think of yourself as a person. I know that sounds quite like cliche and over
kind
and
of
stuff,
yeah.
you know. It's just like you've got to be honest with yourself, and I think because there's nowhere to hide, it's a very pure thing. That's the way that I would describe it. I think it can. I'm hoping to have some of the guys from SBG on the podcast at some point. So I hope to get a bit more out of there'll
be a lot
of questions.
There'll be a lot of interesting topics you'll get out of the guys from there, and they'll be able to tell you so much more about their origins than I will. You know, I think you're right though. I mean, kind of going back to the kind of the footballification of kind of things. Well, rather, I'll just even speak about football and the sort of the violence that we kind of seen between fans, you know, especially when Scotland went to England. But but I even say the firms and things like that still exist today. And one thing that forever kind of struck me with this is I'm thinking that these are guys who, like, they don't box, they don't, you know, or they don't, you know, they don't train, or maybe they do, but I mean,
it's people that come out of a pub after like sinking 6 Guinnesses or something like that.
It is. It's not people who go and train in the gym, or it's not people who go to actually learn like a martial art or to learn how to do something. It is like you say, it's people who are just steaming out of the pub.
Yeah, never been humbled, I suppose.
I don't think they want to be humbled.
Yeah,
I think
they fear being humbled.
I think that's what it is. I mean, like I've known people who have been like that, and I just think to myself, I'm like, you don't want to come to the gym, and you don't want to, like, you know, get submitted by someone who's you know half your size, you know, or you know. You don't want to have that experience because it's an ego thing. Like it doesn't compute for people.
Yeah.
You know, that like the idea that someone who, you know, that they think they could just walk over could actually, you know, kick the shit out of them. You know, it's a really weird thing. And that's I sort of posed a question on my Facebook, all the places you want to go to get all the good answers and stuff. I went to Facebook and I said, why do we only see this really in football? Because we don't see it in others.
It's a very unique kind of niche, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. We don't see it in rugby. Right? You don't see like fans from rugby teams fighting each other post match. You know, you know, cricket, or you know, even go to the.
Could you imagine it at the cricket? Get a lot more viewers. If I could tell you
I probably would do. Yeah. Imagine if they had like an old firm cricket match.
It takes 5 days to complete. The police would be stretched to high heaven.
Well, that's probably why. It's because it takes 5 days to compete.
Yeah.
If you fight the guy on the first day, you're like, you still got to see him.
Like a war of attrition.
That's it. Even if you looked at the American sports in terms of like
NFL basketball,
there really isn't, or at least from my outside perspective,
there's no hooliganism, right?
Not really. No, I wouldn't say so. Why is this thing just football? I've never kind of come to the conclusion and the understanding about that. I've never figured it out.
I do find it weird when I see it, because it's just poison a lot of the time, right? Completely, if it's not physical violence, it's saying really dark stuff online and all that. And that, I mean, that can happen in multiple forms of life, the dark stuff online, but like, you know, with football especially, it seems to kind of rear its head. I've got 2 more questions for you, dude.
Go for it,
yeah. Who are the people in your life that are your inspirations? Now, what I mean by that is I used to be someone that used to look up to like sports people and that, and then I kind of realised people like that would let you down, but it was just because you shouldn't really view them as idols because you don't know them as a person.
Not really.
So, you know, mine would be my mum, just because all the stuff that like she's went through and that in her life. So just who are your inspirations, and in terms of, do you think they've played a massive part in getting you to where you are now?
That's a good question. That's a tough one. That's a difficult one.
I can ask the other one and let you think about it.
Yeah. No, let me see if I mean, it's a tricky one, because in terms of inspirations to do what I do, I'd say, like, you know, Chris probably was one of the guys that kind of, and Max and some other guys was probably one of the people that sort of, like, when I had this idea in my head, I was like, you know, I thought you'll never be able to make get a job doing this or whatever. You know, he was just there doing it and just pottering away and playing gigs and stuff like that, and that's what he did. You know, so you know, he was there and he showed like, well, actually, no, I mean, he can do it. You know, I mean, there's absolutely no reason that, you know, I couldn't do it too. You know, I mean, so, you know, and he can get that enjoyment, you know, and things like that. So I would say it's because when I say inspiration, it feels like I should have a shrine to someone. You know? But I suppose in that sense, yeah, Chris, you know, inspired me to see that it was possible, right? You know, that you can absolutely do it.
Yeah.
There's no way to say that you can't. You just have to put the time in and things. And he's a guy that's doing it, so you just have to just do it as well, you know, and that'll be it. I'll have to think about some others, but we'll go to the next one and we'll come back to that one. I'd say in terms of actually, yeah, Chris, I would say probably for you can do music. Like he's kind of showed that in this area. Like for me, I didn't really know I didn't really know a lot of the other musicians in the area, but he was the one
transferred some confidence from you to do what not necessarily he was doing, but in like your own kind of way.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and I still like say like just, you know, I'll you know, ask Chris questions about gigs, or you know, or ask him about what venues are like and things like that too, you know, and get like the score from him, because, you know, he's you know, he's been in, he's been there and he's done it, you know, and, you know, nobody better to ask if you want to, you know, to find out how to do it, you know. I mean, I don't know, it may be interesting to hear what his inspirations would have been to do music. He's an interesting guy. Like, if you, well, obviously you've spoken to him, so I'll need to go back and, do you ask him that at the end of the podcast?
Actually, that's a new one we've come up with.
It's a new one.
But the last one that we usually ask everyone is, what does music ultimately mean to you as a person?
That's a great question as well. For me, as a person, music just kind of encapsulates like, just kind of like joy, happiness, you know, ability to communicate, you know, sometimes through words, sometimes just through sound, and it just gives you, it gives you the ability to kind of say things but still, or to have a message but not be like too direct about it, you know. I quite like, and it can mean just so much to anything. Like, I get like bizarrely emotional at random bits of songs. Weirdly enough, you know, just something can strike in the right way, and then that's just something that hits you, but it wouldn't do the same to anybody else. Right. You know, and, you know, maybe you feel maybe the same with like, maybe listen to like classical music or film scores. Like, classical music's an interesting one too, because there's no words, so you don't know what the subject matter is all about, but like just the music itself, like, will hit you, and it'll hit someone else completely differently. I think, yeah, for me, it's kind of like you said, it's like it's that thing that kind of unites us, that joy and happiness. You know, I mean, I've never understood people who can come away from seeing music or listening to music and be like in a worse mood than they were, you know, or feeling worse off than they were before they did, because it can just, it's nothing you can't do with it, you know, like really, you know, it's weird, because it's almost like talking like it's like, you know, like a particle, or it's like, you know, it's some kind of spiritual, and I'm not a particularly like religious or spiritual person, but it is kind of like, it's like an energy. It's something that
you almost can't put into words, right?
Very much so. Yeah, that's why it's a great question.
Which is why it's a great question.
It's like an energy, you know, it's just something that's going to be completely different to everybody, but yeah.
Dude, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me on, eh?
No, absolutely. I've been really excited for this episode for a while. I mean, like you said, with nerves and stuff, I always get kind of like nerves meeting someone new. I suppose.
Excitement, that's what it is.
So, I appreciate the time.
No, thanks for having me on.
I wish you all the best for the future and everything, mate. And all of Scott's links to his Facebook page, Spotify, and that'll be in the description. And cheers for your time, dude.
Thanks so much, man. No, thanks for having us on. Hopefully we'll see you again. Catch you at a gig hopefully soon, or we'll see you again sitting here. That'll be great.
Totally, man.
Sweet.
Cheers.
Thanks so much.
This podcast is also available on Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and Spotify.